Mr. Chairman, may we now proceed to consider the recommendation of the Committee on Tourism and Economic Development on the nomination of Mr. Karl Kendrick Chua as Secretary, National Economic and Development Authority.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the consideration of the recommendation of the Committee on Tourism and Economic Development is in order. Go ahead, Majority Leader.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the acting chairperson of the Committee on Tourism and Economic Development, Senator Ralph Recto, be recognized.
Senator Ralph Recto is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader, my dear colleagues. The nominee is a nerd, but with K-pop looks. By nerd, I mean our national economist for recovery and development. In the cabinet, he is the youngest in years, but one of the wisest in experience. But it is not only his youthfulness which makes him stand out in a cabinet of DOMs. Davao connection, oldies but goodies, and military. But his intellect too. His CV is a fine print of academic and professional achievements. Taken together, they are the social and economic reforms writ large. He has logged 18 years of experience in each of the following disciplines: economic policy, fiscal policy, tax administration, political economy, and tax policy. Speaking of tax, he is the architect of the biggest tax hike, or make that plural, tax hikes in history, without having to be punished by the voters at the ballot box like the fate of another NEDA head. Add 16 years of work in statistical development, plus 15 in public expenditure management, 13 in labor and social protection policy, and 11 in poverty studies. The sum, which is more than 100 years in multiple career tracks, is twice Enrile's professional record, but achieved at half his age. Every leader, Mr. President, is dependent on some form of AI, or artificial intelligence. And the President should be lucky to have this nominee who is walking with the terabytes of knowledge in his official family. It is good that he has top-notch qualifications because the cabinet portfolio he holds is one of the most important today. The reason is that the pandemic has unleashed a health crisis and an economic crisis all at once. It is a war being fought on two fronts. One is where lives are saved, the other is where livelihoods are salvaged. The fact is, only a few of those that have gotten the virus may manifest severe body ills. But you don't have to get hit by COVID to be hurt by economic hardships it has caused. Not all COVID victims will see the inside of an ER, but the virus has placed our entire economy in the ICU. Our GDP cratered last year, sinking to a negative 9.6%. The unemployment rate seesaws between 7 and 18%. As business led, the economy shed at least 2.7 million jobs. For every day of ECQ, income loss is 2.8 billion. The toll on millions is best captured by this observation. Ang dating isang kahig, isang tuka, ngayon ay kahig ng kahig, walang matuka. Prevent the economy from fully flatlining and to lay the foundations of a turnaround. A suki of this institution, he has been counseling us on the relief, recovery, resilience measures that we must undertake if we want the greatest threat to this nation in 75 years to be over soon. Mr. President, I've been working with the nominee for many years on all the measures the economic team want us to pass. I always find my encounters with him a learning experience for me, although I suspect that he may not have treated it as a teachable moment for him. I value the hundreds of hours we have discussed policy, even if I know that he looks forward to meeting me with the same excitement as when he goes to the dentist for a root canal. We have crossed swords on many issues, and we have lost count on the times we put each other's ideas on our own crosshairs. But always I come out of those encounters with a higher respect and deeper admiration for this patriot and professional whose love for his country and people is beyond doubt. Mr. President, the likes of him should be the rule in the cabinet, not the exception. The presence of the NEDA chief in the cabinet serves as a government must do for its people. I mean, the things that truly matter, not the trivial ones trolls want. Things like jobs created, investment generated, GDP growth, exports, the poverty incidence slashed, literacy, among others. This is the scorecard NEDA keeps, and it is the only accurate barometer which tells us where we are. The true state of the nation is in our economic and social numbers. They are not in opinion polls which report the perception of the poll. Neither are they in the reach of the SOCMED polls. Surveys can never be a substitute for the development index. And the nation can only score high in that index if it follows and funds the plans of NEDA and if the government heeds the advice of its head. Mr. President, there is one line in the nominee's official CV which strikes me the most. No, these are not the impressive catalog of his published works. Neither are these his academic credentials, his AB from Ateneo and his MA and PhD in economics from that public school down the road, which, as one joke goes, serves as a re-education camp for anyone coming out of a Jesuit school. Rather, I find it on his civil status, where he writes, married with one happy little boy who misses his dad. That boy is Cade Ashby, an incoming grade 1 student at where else? The Jesuit school, Xavier, where his dad was the high school valedictorian 25 years ago. Cade is a star in the constellation of Eridamis, where habitable planets may exist. And Ashby, from what I've heard, is some economist. Obviously, he was named after his father's two passions, astronomy and economics, which bookends the day of this busy man. Mornings, he bikes to work with 2 pieces of pandesal as baon. To his day job, lead government economist. And after a day of poring over spreadsheets, he searches the sky for stars. So when we had that lunar eclipse some nights ago, I imagined father and son watching it together, with the dad annotating the phenomenon to his class of 1. But if he had the nation as audience that night, Karl, Kendrick, Chua would be telling us that we must have a man on the moon goal. I am referring to Kennedy's vow to put a man on the moon before the 60s was over. That we must break free of the political culture which treats grandiose dreams as grandstanding. That although we are in the gutter, let us reach for the stars. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, it is my honor to sponsor the confirmation of the appointment of Karl Kendrick T. Chua, father of a boy who misses him terribly, as the Secretary of Socioeconomic Planning and the Director General of the National Economic Development Authority. Thank you, Mr. President.